UCF, obviously their offense really relies upon the run game. Obviously R.J. Harvey leads the way, and he's a big runner. How do you feel, or what have you kind of seen from that rushing attack, and how do you guys plan on attacking that this Saturday?
Yeah, I just think it's been outstanding. I mean, the multiplicity that they have, both from the tailback position and multiple tailbacks that are running extremely well, and then everybody that has played for them at the running back position has had an elite trait, and that elite trait is the ability to run the football. And so I think when you have that and you've got the ability to create multiple ball carriers with every possession, you've got the ability to attack multiple gaps with what they do. It's a real challenge, and I think credit to Coach Malzahn. I think everywhere he's been in his career, they've always had elite success in terms of running the football, and he certainly has that kind of team right now.
What's unique about Kyle Kent's role? He's been a constant mentoring Brock.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I said this to our team at some point, during this season is maybe after after we got done playing at Houston. A lot of these guys have been here through the entirety of this journey, and the story is really about them, and Kyle's one of those great stories, to be honest. I think Kyle's role has been so many different areas. One is the only person that really in that locker room when we first got here that knew me, just because we had recruited him at Toledo, and pretty much before he was going to come to Iowa State, he was going to come to Toledo and transfer back to Toledo from Oregon State. And then, I think obviously what he went through as a player here, and I think the ability to perform in the moment when his number got called, and really the leadership that he brought to the table. And then I think then to be the captain, to be the senior, to have your season cut short and put the team above yourself, like he did in the moment with Brock, and then the mentor he became for everybody else. I think Kyle's been an incredible story every step of the way, just like Coach Haycock's been, and Coach Rashid has been, and Coach Mauser have been. Kyle's been that. And it's the word to me that keeps coming in as I'm thinking about is servant leadership. I mean, from the very start, that's really who he's been. So his roles changed different times in different ways, from being a GA to an analyst to working with the receivers and the quarterbacks. But I think Rocco would tell you it's been huge to have Kyle there, and I think, always to have somebody that's played the position for the coach, understands what the expectation is, how to lead. I think those things are invaluable, and we're fortunate we got a bunch of our players back here that have been critical pieces of this program growing up, but Kyle's been a great anchor for sure.
With all the talk, obviously, upside, 6-0 first half, second 38. Talk about upside of the mountain. Got the mountain. This was the lead us game, sometimes by double digits, but still found a way. How would you describe the resiliency of this team?
Well, I do think our kids understand the value, and I think that's something that I would tell you we have to be better than, because we won't continue to win football games if we can't put together 60 full minutes of good football. But I would also say that, you have to have a mindset that, no matter how you plan to get off to a great start or not get off to a great start, the reality of it is, things are going to happen, and you have to have great leadership in the moments and great character to, the game's not over till it's over, because I've seen other teams and been a part of other teams where you had success and you couldn't handle that either early in games. And so I think the one great thing this team has had all season is a great mindset on how to play, one moment at a time, one play at a time, one situation at a time, and really have the ability to kind of zero focus on that. And so our efficiency can be better in some of those things, but I think our mindset's been right.
Bo had said that seeing the depth at linebacker and seeing some of those young guys rise up, he called it inspirational. Has that sort of been a rallying point for the defense, seeing how many young guys who may have not seen the field at all this season come up and be ready to play when their number's called?
Yeah, I think it's been really powerful to watch. I mean, and I think it is inspirational when you see a guy like Bo Goodwin go in and play 40-some snaps on Saturday and play the way he played, and obviously what Ryland's done. And, I just feel like for us, though, none of that happens unless you have great leadership. And the leadership in the player locker room has been nothing short of exceptional. And I think those guys would tribute Bo, and they would tribute, Jeremiah Cooper and J.R. Singleton. And, I think those guys have done a great job of reaching back and bringing everybody with them along the way. And, you know, man, how do you study film? How do you prepare for the week? This is the expectation in practice. Those things are still critical, and I feel like our leaders have done a great job of guiding those guys and letting those guys just go play football and let those guys be the leaders on the field. And so it's been a great balance. I think they've been a great inspiration of how they played and reflected the mindset of the leadership of the team, so I appreciate it.
Matt, each win brings more and more national attention to the program. Do you ever discuss it with your players? And how do you think they handle it?
No, I really don't. I mean, you know, we certainly talk about mindset. You know, again, I think it goes back to we've also been here before. You know, we've been in these moments. We've been, you know, in some of these opportunities where, you know, Iowa State football's kind of been creeping up and doing really powerful things in a positive way. And, you know, we've handled it positively and negatively. And so I think what you try to do is use history and your history and just be able to share, you know, why you either were successful handling some of these things and maybe why you weren't. And that's globally, coaches, players, culture, program, all of it. And so I think that's probably one nice thing about being here as long as we had is we've been in some of these moments and can use our past experiences to help guide the ship.
When you look at your defense, the last two games, it's been first drive, maybe not the strongest, but the ability to adjust and then really kind of lock things down. Why has that been the case, and what can you say about kind of the way that as the game unfolds, they've been able to adjust so well?
Yeah, I don't know. That's probably a really good question. I first of all, I would certainly attribute the offenses we played. You know, they've been, you know, unique and different and certainly really good. Last week, really good West Virginia team, and, you know, the week before, you know, I thought the Baylor quarterback played tremendous, and, you know, and so I think the rhythm of how they were going to play the game was probably a little bit unique, and we had to make adjustments. And to me, that is football, and especially defensive football right now. You know, I think sometimes what you see on videotape, you're just probably not getting, especially with as unique as our defense is at times. And, you know, I think it takes a little bit to settle in and understand exactly maybe what's going on and then have the ability to make the right adjustment. No different than the game plan, and really we got to, the same thing has happened offensively, you know, where, you know, maybe what you thought exactly you were going to get, you didn't. And I think probably some of the things that have benefited us is being together for as long as we have. You know, we can speak the same language. We can figure out a way to maybe make the right adjustments, you know, whether it's rhythm of the game or adjustments on both sides of the ball, and not feel like, you know, man, we got to lose our minds to be able to do it. We can calmly do it and execute it and try to keep working ourselves through it. And that's the fun thing about college football. You know, I mean, every game brings its own unique challenge, and, you know, can you make the right adjustments? And I feel like our responsibility as the coaches are how do we help our kids adjust to what's going on in the football game rather than just being there and yelling and screaming. I think being great teachers in the moments are really important, and I feel like our staff's done a great job of that, and we work really hard to try to do that.
How does Higgins compare to the best wide receivers you've had here?
Boy, I think would certainly, you know, rank right at the very top with those guys. I mean, you know, Jaden's ability to not only be big and have great catch radius, but he's a great route runner. I mean, I think one of the things that separates him is his speed and his ability at the top of routes to really separate and create open windows. You know, sometimes when you're big, it's hard to, you know, lower your lever at the route point and be able to create separation. And man, he does such a special job of it. And again, he's you know, like Jalen, and I think it's why those two have been so productive is, man, they can line up anywhere. You know, he's not just an outside receiver. You know, Jaden can line up on the inside, that we can try to find different ways to get him the football, and you know, really can run everything in the route tree, which is, for a big guy like that, that's really hard to find, and he certainly does it at a high rate.
The three wide receivers that we're talking about with Jakeem, Allen, and X, they were all the guy. They didn't have a Jake.
Right.
What is that dynamic like for both of those guys?
Yeah, no, I think it's big because, you know, and you know, we're certainly not even talking about Ben Bramer when you put Ben into it, and I just, again, you know, you can't have everything dictated one way, and you know, I think, you know, certainly for some of those guys, they had running mates, you know, with them. You know, Deshante was a great complement to that, and I think Brees in the running game and David in the running game were great complements to those guys. But, you know, I just think, again, defensively, you know, we always say, man, what's the defense going to try to take away? Who are you trying to take away? And then are you do you have the ability to recognize it and then put your offense in the best situation? I think the other thing that's great about those guys is the humility of those guys is like, man, if we got to run the ball and rush for 300 yards to win the game, that's what we got to do. If it's, they're putting everybody in the box and we're going to throw the ball, then, man, I think the offensive line's really confident, hey, we can be great pass protectors. But I do think the humility on that side with those guys, that's hard sometimes because everybody wants to be the guy and wants the ball, and there's only one ball, and, obviously we got to play great team football here to be successful.
How important was that, I guess, specifically for Jalen?
Yeah.
I'm guessing into 22 with Exley, then
Yeah.
he's going to be the guy, and then Hayden emerges after
Yeah, and I think the friendship of those two guys from day one has been probably what spearheaded, a lot of the success. I think if you ask Rocco what allowed him to get off to a great start a year ago, it would have been those two guys' confidence in each other and their kind of character and friendship, I think really helped Rocco get off to a great start and give him confidence. And you're right, I think those two guys, willing to lead this team together. But I think Jaden Higgins from day one, you knew that he had great skill. What you were always most impressed about, even from the first day he visited, I'll never forget, just who he was and the character, and all he wanted to do was win and be successful. And it's never wavered. It's never been about targets. It's never been about getting mine. It's always been about the team. And, Jalen Noel, I think he's embodied that for 4 years here, every step of the way. So we're fortunate, because I know that's not that way all the time, but we're really fortunate those guys are all about those things.
Bo and John talked about the benefit of having the iPads on the sidelines. Just what have you seen having that as a resource this season? Yeah,
it kind of goes back to what I said a little bit ago, just being good teachers. I think every teacher, wants to have great, the best resources to teach from. And one of the nice things in games sometimes is having the ability to, maybe get the most clearest picture of what's actually happening. Sometimes when you didn't have those, it was hard to maybe always dot every I and cross every T on what exactly happened. And, as a player, you'd ask them what just happened, and that's hard because the player's trying to do his job, not see the whole picture. So I think what those iPads have given us is just the ability to have clarity and maybe correct the problems that existed, or make the right adjustments that maybe we needed to make. And again, that's where experience, working together, speaking the same language allows us to maybe do that at accelerated rate at times, and credit to our coaches.
Matt, defense has been great this season, but especially in the second half. When you guys are making adjustments, what is the conversation like? Do coaches call most of the scouts, do players provide input, or what is that conversation?
Yeah, I think in a healthy organization, both are working together, and when you got guys like, Bo, for us, it's played so much football here, and, Cooper Ebel now is kind of that voice in the linebacker room. He's the most experienced player, for our football team in that room. And then obviously JR, I think those guys having enough football experience and wisdom to be able to kind of give you some feedback along the way, along with Coop and Malik, I think those are highly beneficial conversations on the sideline sometimes. But I still think it comes down to our coaches, trying to do the right thing and put our guys in the right situation. And obviously what Coach Haycock has done, and it's one nice thing being in this defense, our staff being together as long as they've had. We've seen a lot of people do a lot of different things, and having the ability to maybe come up with the right solution in the moment, that's certainly a great benefit.
Coach, defense has always been strong, but 26 second half points you held opponents to this season. What has been crucial just getting your defense elevated to another level?
Yeah, I think if you really look at that too, I think it's playing great team football. The amount of drives that people have had, the ability to run the football, shortening the game at times. I think team football, we've been great, but I think when you look at the amount of drives that have been defended, I think that's a big statistic too. And I think when you look at, that's where, man, what's the rhythm of the game, and how do you play together for each other and make sure that you're protecting the defense is protecting the offense, and special teams is serving the whole. I think those things become really critical to your success, and I think a little bit of that is we've been able to play or find a good rhythm at times in the second half of games. And again, I think those are great adjustments all around.
Coach, it seems like running back has been kind of a new guy stepping up each week. What's that been kind of a product of, and is there like a main guy as we're going to this Saturday game? Would Hansen be in line to get more carries, or how is that being determined lately?
Yeah, that's a great thing about football practice, right? You go to practice, and then when you practice and you play good, then you get to play in the game. And so that's really how we determine it. It's like probably how it should be done. And we got 3 guys that are really good football players and keep playing really good football. And I think we're as blessed as anybody in college football right now to have guys that are playing great. I mean, Abu's had a great season so far. Carson's playing great football, and obviously Jalen's played great football. And, you know, you got to practice good to play good. And, you know, no better time right now than right now to be your best and earn the right to kind of get those carries. And then the nice thing is, you know, once you get into a game, who's got the hot hand sometimes, who's playing really well. But, man, we've been really fortunate because I think all 3 of those guys have just been electric for us this season.
Can you give us a little bit of an update, like update Dylan Barrett on offense, on defense, Cale Berzina, how close he is, and other guys?
I think all those guys are really close. You know, I mean, you know, we're where you're at in the 8th game of the season right now. You know, you just got some guys that are banged up, and you know, I think hopefully, you know, as we continue on, we can get some of those guys back. I do think Cale was really close to playing last Saturday. I would expect him, you know, to be a lot closer to play this coming Saturday. I think Dylan in the same boat, not a season-ending injury or anything like that. I think a guy that we'll kind of see how he progresses this week as we kind of prepare and, you know, just kind of continue to track our football team. But, you know, again, having depth and quality depth on our team has been huge for this team so far.
You guys are 6-0. How has it helped you on the recruiting trail?
Yeah, I don't know. Honestly, probably my focus has been on our team. You know, I think we got off to a really good start in recruiting. At the end of the day, you know, we're not going to waver from who we are and try to recruit the right people in this football program. And, you know, obviously we recruit every day, and that's purposeful and intentful. But to say I'm putting my focus on recruiting, you know, I still think young people want to come play for a program that sustains success both on and off the field, and we're trying to be our very best, and hopefully part of, man, the product we put out on Saturday can continue to showcase who we are and what we stand for.
Looking to Saturday, UCF's run defense, run offense, you talked about a little bit earlier, is so impressive. How important is eye discipline and being able to set the edge to being able to slow them down?
Yeah, I think all those things are hugely important. You know, when you talk run defense, and, you know, when you're as talented as they are and has got the kind of skill that they've got the ability to have, you know, you can't miss. And, you know, I think when you miss, you see 75-yard touchdowns going really fast. And so, you know, we're going to have to do a great job with great eye discipline, obviously being gap sound in what we do defensively, and then we're going to have to tackle. And I think all those things will be really important for us to play great run defense. And I think no matter who you are, those things are really important to play great run defense. But great question.
Matt, I'm sure you know about the 1938 stat, the last team to win this many games at the start of the season. How much different do you think Iowa State football was 84 years ago? And what kind of respect do you have for that group?
Yeah, well, that's a great question, and I probably you're getting me at a bad time to be a great historian. But obviously, you know, to win 6 games in a row in college football, whether it was in 1938 or right now, it's hard. And, you know, again, you're dealing with the mentality of 18 to 22-year-olds that, you know, are trying to grow up from young man to man, and, you know, put in an environment where I'm sure it was challenging in 1938 and it's challenging now. And, you know, I think anytime you have a team that's trying to sustain success, that's not easy. So obviously my hat's off to that group, and, you know, hats off to our group that continue to try to go on this course and have the right competitive stamina and competitive mentality and character to keep growing. And, you know, you appreciate to be able to be mentioned with a team like that for sure.
I haven't been around Carson Hansen a lot. I was hoping you could give me any kind of Carson Hansen stories, anything interesting about that guy. I know, awesome football player, obviously, but
yeah.
What about Hansen's need?
Yeah, you know, I think Carson's been a guy that for us, you know, really got great opportunity last year as a freshman to play a little bit, and took advantage of it. Carson, I had told the story a little bit. Carson was injured most of last year, you know, and really struggled to be able to practice. And so, which was tough because we knew he was going to be a really talented football player, and had some really good moments as a true freshman last year. And I think he was frustrated in terms of not being able to practice and being as productive as he needed to be, and really did an incredible job this offseason getting healthy. I thought our medical staff had a great plan. Coach Kege had a great plan. We kind of really held him out through spring ball to truly get him back to full strength. And man, he had an unbelievable fall camp. And you know, I think what's been really fun about Carson is who he is as a person. You talk about his character, who he is in his faith. Comes from an incredible family. Dad was a great tailback at North Dakota State, so he's got great lineage there. Played in a great high school football program, one of the winningest high school programs up in the state of Minnesota, and so he came from a great lineage of what it takes to be successful. And I think the thing you always knew about Carson is he's a really tough football player, and I think what he's proven through the early part of this season is, man, at full strength, at full health, his toughness has really resonated with our football team. And man, even some of those runs on Saturday, those aren't easy runs. Those are tough physical runs, and he's a great finisher. So we'll need him to continue to grow, but we're certainly really proud of him.